referees. So I try and assign as many games to everybody else, and I take whatever is left over for myself. I'm usually just lining and not head refereeing just because I'm too involved. But I absolutely hate it because I do have relationships with all the kids. But no, weekends, I tend to be off the ice with our kids, but I'm definitely on the ice somewhere else.
Shortage. So you talk about shortage. Sorry, Scott, for that, but
no, it's okay.
Shortage of referees is becoming a pandemic in itself, isn't it?
Yep, 100%. I honestly usually spend half hour, 45 minutes trying to find referees for 6 games that we have on a weekend. Like, it is so time consuming just because we don't have those numbers. And there's so many games going on, right? Like, if there's a AAA midget U18 game and a junior game going on between Moorhead and Winkler, it's hard to get those elite guys out here to do our academy games. We do have some local guys that do help out too, which is awesome. So
when we talk about director of officiating, you're not the director of officiating in Pilot Mound. You're the director of officiating for all Pembina Valley.
Yeah, so I have the title with Pilot Mound, so I do all the assigning and all the issuing, but I also help with Pembina Valley. So Jaden Weeb from Winkler is the head, but him and I work alongside each other just because it's such a big job.
Wow, that's a lot of games to have to assign. How many referees are there, and how many linesmen are there in your area? And are you in a situation where guys could one night be a linesman and the next night be a referee?
Yeah, so right now we have, I think we'd say 10 full-time referees that usually just referee. And then we have probably 45 linesmen that just want to stick to lining. And then we have our guys like me that do lots of both. So we kind of flip the hat and do it all. But I think it's just about rotating and knowing your boundaries, right? So when you say, okay, I can't do this game because I've already done 6 today, well, exaggeration, but just knowing that, okay, when I get tired, I'm not good. We need to get some new guys in here. And we've got lots of young blood, so that's nice too. You're
listening to Game on Hockey on 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM out of Fargo, North Dakota. We appreciate you each and every Thursday night joining us. Continue listening at 6:30. University of North Dakota men's basketball will take place, and more entertainment, more basketball, more sports all evening long. It's almost to the point now. Of course, Pilot Mound Hockey Academy could be. Has there ever been a thought of a officiating academy? Because the road to the National Hockey League, they need referees as well, Scott, don't they? And I think this might be an opportunity, Carson.
Yep, no, it's definitely an idea that's come up before, because it's just like hockey teams. You got to find kids to be willing to jump in and give it a try.
Well, we appreciate that. Well, Pilot Mound, the team's obviously having a successful year in spite of all the other challenges that go on. We appreciate you jumping on. It's great to get to know you, Carson. And, we'll have you on again before the season's over with. I imagine playoffs aren't too far off down the line, are they?
Nope. Yeah, middle of March, all 3 programs. We heading out to BC and go for the championship.
Well, that's Pilot Mound Hockey Academy. And how can people follow the Pilot Mound Hockey Academy? Give us the information. You're the guy that should be talking about that.
Yeah, our Twitter and Instagram, we're at PM Buffaloes, and on Facebook and YouTube, we'll be under Pilot Mound Hockey Academy -PMHA.
Fantastic. Hey, appreciate joining us. Again, every week we have a Pilot Mound sponsored part of it. It's great to keep up with how things are going and learning something new about social media within Hockey Academy, something I was not aware of. So thanks very much for joining us today.
Yes, thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Carson.
Well, Scott, again, things we learn about, the importance of the social media aspect of things now, especially when players want to make the next step and with challenges with scouts getting to those venues. It's got to be the wave of the future.
If I'm a young player who wants to play college hockey someplace or just wants to play junior, we've talked about the number of players that have gone from Pilot Mound to junior hockey in Manitoba. If I just want to be that type of player to get from Pilot Mound into junior hockey or college hockey, I want a full-time social media director as part of the deal. When I buy into this thing, I want to make sure there's somebody there who's going to send my tapes out
right
to college coaches, to junior coaches, that I know that there's one guy. And if I feel like I'm not getting what I need, I can say to that guy, hey, would you send my tape to Minot?
You just said
send
tape.
My tape to
you just said tape.
I said tape.
It's not even a tape.
It's recording.
Whatever
it happens to be. Yeah, I'm an old guy, so I say tape. But the reality is you've got to get these videos out to people.
Right.
And And I think there's a lot of players that are being asked, do you have a video? And Carson's
Absolutely.
the guy at Pilot Mound who has the videos.
A lot different from the day that I walked up and walked on at UND and said, "Hey, I'm here," and they said, "Why?" They had no clue who the heck I was. But someone who has a clue about everything about University of North Dakota, and I wanted to have him on today because, well, first of all, he covers University of North Dakota men for the Grand Forks Herald, does it so very well, men's hockey team. But some interesting things going on with University of Michigan. Brad Schlossman, welcome to your first time on Game On with Scott Taylor. Now, you and Scott go back a little ways, don't you?
Oh yeah, it's great to finally be on with you guys. We've been trying to set up shows, and it seems like every time it's unable to work. So when you finally said 5:45 today, it was like, we made it, we did it.
We did it, absolutely. Well, I know you want to get out the door by 6 o'clock. So the story is this: University. By the way, listen to Game On Hockey on the Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM. The story is this: University of Michigan didn't want to play in the Great Lakes because, well, their star players are playing in the World Junior Championship. Those emails were now looked back upon, and give us the entire story here. And what ramifications might this have moving forward?
Well, first of all, they were playing the GLI over when the World Juniors, and Michigan released this very odd statement that said they were going to play the first game, but not the second. And right away, that raised a lot of questions, because if they say, we're not going to play the first game, but we're going to play the second, then you just assume, well, hey, there's some guys who are probably in COVID protocol. They're going to get out in time to play the second, but not in time to play the first. That happens. Teams have had to push back games a day for this reason. But the first game, but not the second, that doesn't make any sense. So right away, it raises some questions. And I think what we're all wondering is how many guys are available? And because they said for health reasons, they can only play one game. And so, again, that's very odd. I'm thinking they must have 12, 13 guys, and they say, hey, we can push it for one game. Well, then the line chart comes out, and they have a full 18 guys playing in that first game. And so now you're like, okay, well, you had a full lineup, and you can play today, but not, these guys can't play tomorrow. None of this makes sense. Mel Pearson said it was a decision that was made by the medical team there. Again, raises tons of questions. What is their medical protocol here? If they only have none of it added up. And then someone FOIA'd Freedom Information Request Act, so the coach's emails, and found in a couple emails that show actually he was trying to get out of playing those games, and he was doing it back to the summer. So he knew all along he wasn't going to have the World Junior guys there, and he didn't want to play without them. I think there's a lot of different points that could go into it. Number one, you schedule the games. You play the games that you schedule. I also think what kind of message it sends to the team, the 18 guys who are there. You don't think these guys are even worthy of trying to play with them? And they had 2 first-round picks and 7 draft picks. It wasn't a bad team. And I think we've just been through 2 years where we've had games canceled, things out of everyone's hands, reasons that players can't play, fans can't watch. And now all of a sudden we have a game where they can play, and they decide not to because they don't like their roster enough. I don't think we want to go down that road. I don't think we want teams coming up to Thursday and saying, actually, Reese Gaber is going to be out this week, and let's just not. It won't hurt, I think that should be happening. Clearly, I know they were down a lot of guys, but every other team's dealt with this. Every team has dealt with this in the last 2 years. I don't know what team hasn't, and so problematic to say the least.
Does hockey have the same kind of rule as NCAA Division I basketball? Because I just found out recently that in NCAA Division I basketball, you must have 7 scholarship players available to play, or it's not a team. Does that happen in hockey with numbers?
So each league has kind of protocols. The NCHC, they have a certain number of players. where if you go under this, you can go to the league and say, hey, these are our numbers, and they probably will cancel the game. However, you do have situations where you can still request to play. For example, Colorado College, one of the things is you need 2 goalies, or you're supposed to, if you go under 2 goalies, you can say, hey, we only have 1 goalie, and they could. Colorado College last year at the tournament, they only had 1 goalie. Colorado College asked, hey, this is our team, can we play? And they said, sure. So they played. They only had 1 goalie. But, obviously, if you go down like short guys, I get it. Like if you're down to 13 guys and like 1 goalie and you say, hey, this isn't safe, I get it. That probably isn't. But when you have 18 guys, you can play. That's not what happened here. If it was, I'd say, hey, like, I get it. But
as important as pairwise points are, to your point, Brad, and by the way, that's Brad Schlossman, the great writer for the Grand Forks Herald, covering University of North Dakota men's hockey all hockey season long. But all of a sudden you go, those pairwise points are very important. All of a sudden you're teetering on the last game of the year of getting in or getting out. I don't think anybody's going to do that, but Mel Pearson set a precedent.
And I think that's the risk. I think that's part of the reason I've been critical of it, is because theoretically you could go to the NCHC frozen faceoff. There can be a semifinal game there. You can crunch the pairwise and do all the scenarios because there's only so many games left to be played. And you could say, hey, if we don't play, we're in the tournament. And just say, see ya, we're not going to play. That could happen. And I think when you talk about teams setting the precedent, everything in sports is copycat.
Mm-hmm.
If other teams see teams, hey, well, they did it, why don't we do it? I think there is a real risk of that happening, which is one of the reasons I have been critical, because I think that's the way to prevent against it right now, is because there is no recourse. The NCAA can't rule the forfeit. The leagues, there is no recourse for that. So the only recourse is, people being critical of it. And so I don't think it's good for anyone. I don't think it's good for the athletes who want to play games. And trust me, I'm guessing those Michigan kids wanted to play. You had kids there who, for the last 2 years, have barely got to play, if at all. And they have isolated from friends. They have taken the COVID tests once a week, getting that Q-tip shoved up to their brain once a week. They have practiced every day, and now they finally got their chance to play, and their coach said, nah, we're not going to play. Like, how do you feel if you're that kid? I mean,
it can't feel very, very good. Well, I tell you what, Brad, I promised you get out the door. You'll have to get out the door by 6 p.m. Right. So I appreciate you jumping on board with us. We're going to have you back again. These guys are true journalists, by the way. Scott Taylor, Brad Schlossman, these guys are true journalists, and they do it so well. And the importance of good journalism in this case and pushing the case with Michigan is extremely important. If you didn't think it beforehand, now you know, because Brad has told you it is important because the precedent can be set. Brad, thanks very much for joining us. Scott, another great segment. Brad Schlossman delivered.
Oh, it's great to see him. The last time I think we hooked up, we were kind of sitting beside each other in a playoff game 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, it was a long time ago in Winnipeg. But hey, happy winter, happy New Year.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got to connect here, and we'll do it again soon.
You got it. I appreciate it, Brad. Thanks for jumping on board with us. Well, Scott, we'll take a quick break and we come back. Doug Smith will be joining us eventually, but we have some hot topics to go over, and then Doug will join us. We'll have him for the rest of the show. But with that, we'll take a break from the Nilles Law Firm Studios. You're listening to Game on Hockey on the Mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 FM. is a beautiful Thursday night in Fargo, North Dakota, wherever you may be listening. Whatever device you're listening to us on, we are on YouTube Live, so you get to see the beautiful face of Scott Taylor. Doug Smale is waiting in the waiting room for us, and my mug. So each and every Thursday night you get to do that. Remember to stay tuned. At 6:30 will be UND men's basketball. Hopefully they'll get off the schneid and break that 8-game losing streak. But first of all, this is the Nilles Law Firm studio. Established in the early 1900s, the Nilles Law Firm provides legal services in more than 10 areas of practice, including business and corporate law, estate planning, wills and trusts, probate, commercial litigation, adoption services, and real estate. A division of Nilles Law Firm is Northern Title, which provides complete closing and escrow services, along with title insurance policies for all types of real estate transactions in North Dakota as well as Minnesota. Call Nilles Law Firm at 701-237-5544 or look them up on the World Wide Web at nilleslaw.com. We appreciate them sponsoring us all season long. And Doug, 2 weeks ago we had the great Bernie Perrant on, and Scott Taylor was absolutely giddy with that. And when I told him that I was efforting getting you on, he was even more giddy. So with that, I'm going to let Scott start it off because he's smiling, he's jumping up and down, even on the bad knee, and we'll get this underway. But thanks very much for joining us. Been a busy, long travel day for you today.
Thanks for having me, Travis.
If I'm going to ask the first question, my first question should be about Doug and his hockey team. But I go back way too far with Doug Smale to ask about what's going on today. I just want to know, was that 1984-85 Winnipeg Jets team the best team you ever played on? And was it the second best hockey team in the National Hockey League that year?
The best hockey team I ever played on was 1980 national champion Fighting Sioux hockey team. So that's still my mantra. Actually, as a pro, though, I think we had another team we had three teams in Winnipeg because there was such a revolving door with half the team and the coaching staff there. There were three teams that were contenders in the 80s that were, I would say, top third of the league. Anytime you battle into the NHL and you're considered a top third team, that's tall cotton. So 84-85 certainly was a good hockey club. We were young, we were full of pea and vinegar. We were probably missing one, maybe two players. And the late great Dale Howardchuk was always grumpy about the one player that we were missing in a key position. And that was a darn good hockey club. And unfortunately, that season Dale broke a rib and didn't get to keep us bumping along.
That team had 6 30-goal scorers, of which you were one. I don't think that's happened again, has it?
No, I don't believe so. I think the Islanders were the team before that did it, and everybody knows the legacy of the Islanders. And to the hockey world, from one Moose Jaw man to another Moose Jaw family, please condolences to the Islanders and to the Clark Gillies family for his passing.
Absolutely. And what a big man, what a gentleman on top of it, and what a loss to the New York Islanders and the National Hockey League as well. Doug, one thing I'm looking back at now, I run the hockey DB thing, and one thing you were really good at when you were younger and you through your NHL career, you could score goals. Good Lord, 60 goals in 57 games. Was that what you wanted to do, or it just came naturally to you?
I think that goal scoring is something everybody loves to do. I don't care who you are as a hockey player. Look at Big Reeves in New York the last week. They're getting a couple. He's smiling from ear to ear, and so everybody likes to score goals. I think that you have a nose for the net, and if you have a nose for the net, there's something there that is innate in some cases, and somewhere along the way, I seem to lose my instinct for that in the NHL. But I think I think it was always something that was a part of my game.
Well, I tell you what, one thing that I never could do was score goals. I could block shots, a few them off my neck even back in the day, Doug. But one thing I know you are, and I had Darren Jensen on my Saturday morning show here last week, and we talked about, the very thing about your acting career. It really came to the forefront in 1980 when a contact lens slipped out of Darren Jensen's eye during a national championship game, and you were told to take a dive that no one knew on the team that you were going to take. Walk through that scenario and how it was brought about without the rest of the team knowing that was going to happen. It scared the heck out of us.
Well, actually, Jenny, the situation came up where one of his contact was dislodged and he couldn't see, so somebody needed to do something. I overheard the guy saying it, and nobody suggested I do it. I just said I got this. And so it just happened that we won the draw, and puck came to me, went down the boards, and Tommy Laidlaw stepped up, and as he came to hit me, I bailed out and fell backwards, and it looked like a real bad hit, and I just stayed down. And it wasn't a bad hit at all. And yeah, so there's a little settling on the ice, and people come running over, and I just laid there. Erwin Martins, I remember, was over there. He was actually laughing, and he said, "Keep your head down. You're laughing too hard." And so it was kind of funny, and because AJ, our trainer, had to come over, and then he slipped the contact lens solution into Erwin's glove, and then Erwin took off and went down, and he got his contact fixed. But yeah, it was a fun deal.
It really was. I mean, you know what we're going to do, guys? We need to take a quick break to kind of catch up on the commercial breaks here to pay for this fun and frivolity we have to do each and every week. Doug, you're going to hang out here until 6:30 until we finish this show off. We got a lot of good stories to tell. Scott Taylor's got a lot more questions, and he's still giddy about having you on. So we appreciate it. You're listening to Game on Hockey on the mighty 790 and 104.7 KFGO. Hockey every Thursday night. Make sure to stay tuned at 6:30. University of North Dakota men's basketball with my broadcast partner, Scott Taylor. We have, again, Scott's giddy. He's a fan favorite. He's Doug Smale, former teammate of mine. I'm very proud of this young man. He's done a lot of great things, and a lot of great things for a lot of young men coaching hockey today, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But Scott, you have a bunch more questions to fire away at Doug, so go right ahead.
How did you develop the speed? I mean, we go back, you're coaching now, and you're coaching kids, and you're teaching kids how to play hockey. But you were one of the fastest players we had seen in the 80s when you entered the National Hockey League. How did you do it? How did you become the skater that you became?
You know, a couple of short stories here. Number one, I met North Dakota, and in my last year, Carol Wilson, Rick Wilson's fantastic wife, and she was our power skating coach, and she hadn't spoken to me all year about my skating. And I said, Carol, I finally went up to her. I said, Carol, did I do something wrong? Am I a hopeless case? Am I lost? You haven't come up to me and said one thing about my skating. You haven't corrected one thing, my gait, my stride, my edge work. You haven't said anything. I said, am I a lost cause? And she looked at me, she says, all you need to do is go home tonight or go to your dorm room, pick up the phone, call your mom and dad, and thank you for what they gave you. Because I can't correct anything about your stride. It's about as perfect as I've seen. And I'm not saying that arrogantly. That's just what she said. I knew that, you know, after I started analyzing my own stride, I knew I had a few things to change. But my parents, I guess, they were both athletes, and they gave me my genetics, number one. Number two, I played every sport growing up. We did nothing but just run and skate and just work and just, you know, so you develop some athleticism that way. And then, key to genetics. When I was signing with Winnipeg, when I signed with Winnipeg, I asked John Ferguson, I said, John, why did you sign me? I had 14 NHL interested parties, had several offers. And why were you the one that made this offer? It was equal to two other teams, but I decided on Winnipeg. And I said, why did you offer me what you did? And he said, you know, Dougie, when I was growing up and I was playing junior hockey in Melville, senior teams used to come to Melville, and I used to go to the games. And there was this one guy. He was a small guy, and he came in. He just worked like a dog, and he just kept working and working and working and working and working. And being from Saskatchewan, he said when they saw me play, he paid me a talent compliment about my skills. And he said, we have to have him and double this. If he can work 10% as hard as that guy, who was another small guy, then we're going to sign him for sure. And I said, that's great for you, but what does that have to do with me? What does that guy have to do with me? He said, Doug, that guy that I was watching was your father. And so that's where I got my legs. It was from my dad.
Wow.
So
you say you played all the other sports. Is that what you recommend to the kids in your program?
Yeah, we have at Rocky Mountain Rough Riders in Colorado. We have Rough Rider baseball, we have Rough Rider basketball, Rough Rider volleyball. We're moving on to other areas. Tony Zadeo from Thunder Bay, ex-North Dakota guy. He's the one that owns the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders. I talked to him about branding the program with Rough Riders years ago, and he's so behind it and expanding it to the model of a sports club in Europe. Our guys don't get to play those other sports at our ages, but they're certainly welcome to. But I certainly recommend, a young guy growing up playing numerous sports if they can.
Well, one thing, Doug, to clarify, did I hear this correctly? You were a shortstop in baseball. You were offered baseball scholarships as well, or opportunities to play college hockey or college baseball, in the States.
Yeah, when I was 16, I was offered. It was actually a prep school deal set up by the Cincinnati Reds and their Canadian Western Canada Scout, and they had me targeted to a Division I school after that, and I was fortunate in that. And there's a funny story with that, guys, and in doing that, my dad was a big baseball guy. He wanted me to take the deal, and I said no. I just thought to myself, jeepers, short white Canadian going down to the States to play ball. I don't know how that's going to work. And my buddy actually took the deal, and he went down. He came back after his first year, and he saw me at a party, and we didn't even say hello to each other. He just looked at me. He said 2 words: "Good choice." And I looked at him and I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because they all run like a deer. They knock the cover off the ball, and they throw the ball from center field on a rope." And he said, "There's a lot of them."
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott. One thing I have to share. I was a free agent. Like Doug, I wasn't drafted on my 18th birthday, and played JV hockey at UND. You don't get drafted at a JV very often, do you, Dougie? But the Winnipeg Jets was someone that one of my Don Baisley had talked to about me, and Don Baisley wasn't my agent, but he was agents for Anders Hedberg, Ulf Nilsson, some very good hockey players. He said, well, no, he's not good enough. Dunn's too slow. The reason I was too slow is I practiced against this guy named Doug Smale, and the best banner I ever saw ever at the Winnipeg Arena was the definition of speed moving at a snail's pace. That one of our drills was, Doug, remember this one, defensemen stand at center ice. You would start in the corner. When you hit the blue line, you had to turn and try to catch you by the blue line. By the time I turned, you were already shooting the puck on the net. So there's no point in me even doing some of these drills.
I think you're exaggerating.
No, there's no exaggeration. Well, I got to chop you down with my big stick, but that wouldn't have worked very well either because Gino wouldn't appreciate that. But the one thing about that, his speed made the rest of us better because we had to practice against him on a regular basis, Scott, and that was a difficult circumstance, believe you me.
Well, he wasn't a bad hockey player in the National Hockey League either.
No, he wasn't.
He's a good college player, but not a bad NHL player. How do you like coaching? I mean, that's a big step for a lot of guys is to stay in the game and coach. And a lot of guys want to coach in the National Hockey League, but you're coaching young men. What's it like for you? Do you like it? Is it something that you always wanted to do?
I actually, my son, bless his heart, he kind of drugged me into it, and some guys asked me to help out with a program down there, and I got involved, and my mind is one that I have to have a plan to go forward with. So when I started coaching, I started writing business plans for coaching and business plans for how I had to try and get the hardest thing for guys that are just players. I believe the hardest thing for guys as players is to take everything that all the coaching staffs give us through our pro career. And I mean, you look in Winnipeg, you got the Tommy Watts, from the Tommy McBees to the Tommy Watts, two different kinds of styles. And you got the Brian Sutherland, Barry Longs, the Bob Murdochs, the Dan Maloney's, and a lot of different guys that were coaching us. And so you try and take everything you've gotten from your NHL career, your playing career, and you try and put it into a coaching format. And so all the stuff that's jumbled into our head, you try and get it out to an ordered fashion, depending on the age and skill and the mentality. And so I've enjoyed putting the structure together, for our coaching staff with the AAA program, and laying down the way that I think it's best. In a structural format, and letting the coaches run with their skill sets. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the kids. It's more difficult every year because to use the modern day term of the woke generation, there's been a huge loss, what I'll call some integrity in the game, I guess. And are you guys there?
Yeah, we're still here. Keep talking.
Yeah. And so there's a little more difficulty in what they have to do, boys, and what they have to deal with socially, what they have to do, and the things that are coming at them socially, to focus on the sport. It's a lot more difficult for them and coaches to keep a boy on task, I guess you would say, and that's difficult, and yet it's really rewarding. I enjoy the time with the guys and our 13s through 18s, and also with another organization that I work with. It's a small organization, but there's 400 or 500 kids in it, and so I'm the director of skill development for it. And it's just been really enjoyable putting something into the boys' lives and trying to guide them into the social world as we know it here. The last 2 years has been difficult, but really rewarding.
That's the voice of Doug Smale, former UND Fighting Sioux, former Moose Jaw Canuck, by the way, former Winnipeg Jet, a Cardiff Devil. Well, we might ask a few questions about that moving forward as well. You're listening to Game on Hockey with Scott Taylor and Travis Dunn each and every Thursday night. Again, make sure to stay tuned at 6:30. University of North Dakota men's basketball coming up. But I have to also throw this in. This segment brought to you by the Golf Center in Grand Forks. Grand Forks, North Dakota has got a great place to go buy golf equipment. In business for 35 years. Custom club fitting from Ping. PXG, Titleist and tailor-made, as well as custom putter fitting. They also have Sky Track, where you can practice in your garage, and stop in to South Columbia Road, 3001. Talk to the guys, Brian Leach, and they'll get you set up. Golf season's right around the corner, and one thing that I know Doug Smell did, he got up an airplane one time and in Denver, Colorado, Scott, and said, "This is kind of rather nice compared to Grand Forks in January. I think I'll live here." So thus is the reason he lives in Colorado at this point. But now this weekend, you're in Alexandria, Minnesota, to explain North Star Academy. We have Pilot Mound Academy as a sponsor of one of our segments here. The growth of the hockey academy world, Doug, it has really blown me out of the water.
Yeah, I think we've taken a little bit of that bent too. We have an academy, a school within our program as well, and I just got to tip my hat to all the boys across Canada and a growing number in the United States. The prep school thing has exploded out east, obviously, for years now. The opportunity to develop the athletes in the academy setting and the prep school setting is you can't compete with it under the old circumstances. I think it is absolutely the stock of the future. There's so many more touches they get on the ice. There's so many more touches they get in the training room, so many touches in the skill room. We built a skill room in our facility last year where the guys they get 2 to 3 sessions a week in that skill room where they're working on all kinds of mechanical skating movements, all kinds of mechanical hand and stick handling movements. And the hockey academies just have expanded the developmental capability of a program or organization or team.
We have talked often on this show about the growth of hockey in the United States, how much better it's getting, and the fact that the NCAA Division I is now in Arizona. It's going to South Dakota. It's going to go on to Long Island. It is growing every year, almost every day. How much better is the hockey in Denver from when you started this program till how it is now?
Well,
how are your numbers? Are your numbers rising?
Oh, well, our numbers in our associations are really good, and the biggest growth the last couple of years has been in girls. It's just out of this world with girls hockey. The quality of development for both the boys and the girls program is dynamically changing. Again, boys in the academy environment, but the depth of coaching and going down to the details from skating, hands to vision to gameplay development all across the board is much more specific than it used to be. And I get on the ice with one group every Tuesday night of about 50 U8 kids. And it's one of my funnest times of the week. But we set up a system. I got a system set up for all the dad coaches who are out there and some of the other coaches, and they walk through what I lay down. But it's specific, it's detailed. They don't stop for an hour. Now we got them in different tranches where they got about a 12-second rest between every rep that they do for a full hour. Now these are 7 and 8 year olds, so it's you're challenged. I mean, myself, I try to challenge myself to what we lay down for the kids. And, we do some camps sometimes. And so this is the level of guys that they're challenging each other. I think in Colorado, we're challenging each other across the different associations. Say, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? And it's fun. It's the hockey world. It's the family of hockey. It's great. I had some people I was talking to this week that are thinking of coming to this association from California. They're considering, and I said, look, it's just a family. I know all the guys there. They know all the guys here. We're talking 1,500 kids in the 3 associations, and yet here's what we all bring together. And it's such a neat family. And through this COVID thing, you got to understand this COVID thing has been hell on kids. And what we've been able to see in the hockey world is this is a place where we largely kept it together. Even the start of it last year in 2020, where these kids didn't see anybody for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. They came back and we were acting like Red Skelton on skates just to get an emotion out of them because they had closed off. But it was such good fun. We got them back, and our environment has been special. It's actually gotten better through this because it's closened us up and tightened the family up. And it's just been a blast. I mean, it's just been a blast with these young kids.
Now, this team you've got in Alexandria is a pretty good hockey team. Tell us about the Rough Riders.
Our Rough Rider program is continuing to develop. We're as an 18 team, we compete very good every year. We don't have the scholarship money as some other programs. We don't recruit as heavily as other programs. we compete. We're proud of what we do at our midget teams and how they go to compete with our local boys, how we push them on, not actually how we get them to a place where other teams like them, and in junior hockey, et cetera. And so, and on to Division I and Division III, et cetera. So we're competitive. We were at nationals last year. We hope to get there again this year. And we compete. We compete. So we're pretty proud of our boys, and they put in a lot of work on a daily basis and a weekly basis with the ice sessions, the off ice training, the skill room, the strength and conditioning, plyometric work, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's a fun program.
Well, we're wrapping it down to the last 3 minutes. We could probably do this for another 2 or 3 hours, getting the hockey conversation with Doug. It gets very deep. But Doug is a very deep guy when it comes to the world of hockey, and we've learned that over the course of the years. Doug, just a couple of quick update on the Alexandria. What teams are all there? Is it very similar to what was in Moorhead back in September?
No, and we went to Alexandria last year. There's 4 teams that are there. North Star Academy, Milwaukee is there, Sioux Falls Power is there, and us. And so we'll play 3 games and go home. And our 16 team and our 18 teams are in Alexandria this weekend.
Well, Doug, we sure appreciate you jumping on board. I know Scott, Bernie Perrant a couple weeks ago, now Doug Smale. How much more giddy could you possibly get?
Well, what we have to do is we have to get Doug into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
He is the holder of the fastest goal to start an NHL game at 4 seconds. I witnessed it, and I don't know how that St. Louis defenseman passed it to him. I was cut by St. Louis. That's the only thing I can say. Really? Anyway.
I was playing with my grandson, ripped that stick off the wall last week, and he was playing with it, ripping all the tape off. And I'm going, holy cow, I don't know if I should be letting you do that.
You got to send that stick to my buddy Craig Campbell at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Maybe they'll remember you and get you in.
Well,
absolutely.
I think there'd have to be a numbers factory on my numbers before that happened.
Hey, Doug, thanks for joining us on this Thursday. Really do appreciate it. Hope you had a great time. I know we did, and we'll talk to you somewhere down the line, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Scott. So good to speak with you guys.
Hey, good to see you. Best of luck this weekend.
Thank you, man. Take care, boys.
That's a great Doug Smale. 20 seconds left on this thing there. Well, Scott, a lot of fun as always. Take care.
Happy winter. See you next week.
Happy winter. We'll see you next Thursday. Stay tuned for UND men's basketball. You're listening to Game on Hockey on 790 and 104.7 FM.
Belongs to a creature from outer space.